Hey everyone, Pinoy X here once again, back with another video for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Today, we are once again gonna go through yet another Safi'jiiva Siege guide when it comes to the Iceborne expansion. I'm still getting some questions here and there in regards to my personal approach when it comes to the Safi'jiiva Siege within the Iceborne expansion, and I thought now would be a great time to do a full comprehensive guide when it comes to my personal approach regarding the Safi'jiiva Siege within the Iceborne expansion. The idea here is to cram in as much information as possible in regards to my personal approach in breaking Safi'jiiva's body parts in order to truly maximize my reward level when it comes to this siege. So this video is gonna be a full comprehensive guide on my personal approach in regards to breaking Safi within the Iceborne expansion. This is Breaking Safi, the full package. Now let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first and foremost, I am gonna give to you my personal playstyle against Safi'jiiva when it comes to Iceborne. The idea behind the playstyle part of this video is that you're seeing how I actually fight against this monster when it comes to the siege, because some people actually don't take this into consideration when it comes to the game, that you actually do have certain approaches to certain monsters in the game when it comes to Iceborne. If you approach Safi'jiiva just like any other monster in the game, then more than likely you will not break a single body part on this monster regardless of the build that you are running. Even if you have the most optimized build for this creature, you will not break a single body part unless your playstyle changes from just a general monster to one that is mostly focused on breaking Safi'jiiva's body parts. And the best approach to that is being focused and persistent in breaking one body part at a time before moving on to the next one. I cannot stress enough how many times you need to be focused on one body part first until that body part breaks before moving on to the next one, and you have to be very persistent at breaking that one body part first again before moving on to the next one. That's my personal approach when it comes to this monster, and it guarantees me those body part breaks regardless if I'm running with coordinated teams or if I'm running with randoms. More often than not, I'm running with randoms and I still get more reward levels than the average person because I'm focused in one body part before moving on to the next one, and I'm persistent at breaking that body part no matter how many times Safi'jiiva throws me off. So focus on one body part at a time, be persistent at it before moving on to breaking the next body part. So with the approach aside, what kind of builds are we looking into when it comes to breaking Safi'jiiva? All builds are viable against this monster, but you need to have Part Breaker 3 in order for you to guarantee breaking body parts on Safi'jiiva. The problem with this monster is that it's so rigid in terms of the body parts that they take forever to break if you don't have Part Breaker 3. So Part Breaker 3 is pretty much essential to any builds out there against this monster. So when you're going against Safi'jiiva, make sure that your build has Part Breaker 3 on it in order for you to be able to break the body parts on this monster as effectively as possible alongside the gameplay approach of being focused and persistent. So that's gonna play in tandem to your overall gameplay against this monster. Bring Part Breaker 3 as an essential against Safi'jiiva when it comes to the Safi'jiiva Siege. Now, alongside bringing Part Breaker 3 to your build, there is one more information that you need to know about when it comes to this monster, and that is knowing which weapon type to use against which body part. When it comes to Safi'jiiva, this monster is so meticulous when it comes to damage type resistance, meaning that it really needs you to use a specific weapon type in order to break a specific body part. If you're using a severing type weapon, so that's longsword, greatsword, or anything with a blade on it essentially, then you want to be aiming for the tail of Safi'jiiva first and foremost because that nets you the most amount of points, and then you want to be aiming for the forelegs, the two front legs, afterwards. The two front legs are not a high priority, but the tail is. So if you're a severing type weapon of any sort, aim for the tail first, and then you can aim for the two front legs afterwards. Now, if you're using a blunt type weapon, so the hammer or the hunting horn, the back legs are your main priority, and then afterwards, you can go for the head. Now in this case scenario, you actually want to prioritize the 2 back legs first because the 2 back legs are the easiest to break when using a hammer or a hunting horn. So break 1 back leg first before moving on into the next one, and once you break both of them, go for the head of Safi'jiiva. Just be careful when you're hunting Safi'jiiva and you're aiming for the head because you could get attacked by Safi'jiiva very easily because you are within close proximity on a lot of its attacks when using a melee weapon and trying to break the head. Now finally, we also have the long-range type players, which according to the game is apparently considered as the ammo type damage. Now when it comes to long-range players, we're looking into the bow as well as the bow guns. What you want to be aiming for as your main priority is the back of Safi'jiiva as well as the wings. If you want to break the back, go for the gigantic spike protruding on Safi'jiiva's back, and if you want to aim for both the left and the right wing, their individual wings by the way, you want to be hitting for the sweet spot on the monster's wing in order for you to deal as much damage as possible in order for you to break the Safi'jiiva's wings. So there is that sweet spot on the wings that's really annoying to hit, but at the same time, if you're focused and persistent in hitting that sweet spot, you will eventually break both of Safi'jiiva's wings if you do one wing at a time. Now when it comes to bowgun users, you actually have one more body part that you share when it comes to blunt-based weapon users, and that is Safi'jiiva's head. I have found it to be most effective to use a bowgun against Safi'jiiva's head because you are within that effective range between Safi'jiiva's attacks and your own personal attacks. Long-range weapon users are very effective in breaking Safi'jiiva's head because again of that effective range. You deal a lot of damage to the monster and you have less of a chance of getting hit by Safi'jiiva's attacks because you don't have to worry about any of its physical attacks in any way, shape or form. Bow users, you can go ahead and try, but because your effective range is much shorter than that of a bowgun, I don't advise using a bow against Safi'jiiva's head. Instead, opt into swapping into a different loadout with maybe a bowgun and then go ahead and aim for Safi'jiiva's head. Now as you can see, it's very important to know which weapon type to use against which body part alongside bringing in part breaker 3 against the Safi'jiiva. But there's one more body part that you need to break in order to truly maximize your reward level, and that is Safi'jiiva's chest. Now in this case scenario, you don't need any specified weapon type. Instead, you can use any weapon type against Safi'jiiva because the method against this monster, if you truly want to break the chest, is sleep bombing it during the 3rd phase when it enters the supercritical state. Once it enters supercritical state, go in, sleep the monster, and put as many mega barrel bombs and whatever explosives that you have on the chest of Safi'jiiva as possible and blow that chest to smithereens. Once you do that, Safi'jiiva will wake up but the chest won't be broken. But at that point, you can use any weapon type to deal as much damage as possible to Safi'jiiva's chest, and it will eventually break on the 3rd phase fairly easily because you have dealt so much damage with just a single sleep bomb during the supercritical state of the monster. So sleep bombing Safi'jiiva is the most effective way to break the chest for this particular creature within the Safi'jiiva Siege. Now those are pretty much all of the standard information that I know of when it comes to hunting Safi'jiiva in general. However, because this is more comprehensive than usual, I will be providing more information in regards to this monster, such as the supplementary information that you need to know when it comes to the Safi'jiiva Siege. The first supplementary information that you need to know is in regards to environmental traps in the 1st phase and the 3rd phase. Always use the unsteady ground or the falling boulder on Safi'jiiva whenever you can. It immobilizes the monster and it gives you a huge opening in order for you to break those body parts. When it comes to the 3rd phase, always use the gas pockets whenever you can, because whenever you use the gas pockets, you always have the potential to knock down Safi'jiiva, meaning that you also have an opportunity to actually break the body parts during the 3rd phase as well. So always try to find a way to immobilize the monster by using the environmental hazards around you in order to take down the Safi'jiiva. Now alongside environmental hazards, another information that I would provide for you is do not use your sleep, your paralysis, or your stuns until the 3rd phase of the hunt. When it comes to this monster, it gets very resistant when it comes to sleeping and paralysis. What you want to do when it comes to Safi'jiiva is you want to paralyze it during the supercritical state on the 3rd phase, and of course you want to sleep bomb it during the 3rd phase as well. So always save your sleep and your paralysis during the 3rd phase. When it comes to stunning the monster using something along the lines of sticky ammo, believe it or not, I've not actually seen any difference regardless of which part of the hunt you actually use it on, because for some weird reason, Safi'jiiva is actually very susceptible to being stunned, and I've stunned it multiple times during a hunt using sticky ammo. So feel free to stun it whenever you want, but when it comes to paralysis and sleep, do not use them until the final phase. Always save them for the final phase when Safi'jiiva goes into super critical state in order to deal as much damage as possible to the monster whilst it's immobilized. Now alongside this, you also have yourself the mounting mechanic. Now when it comes to mounting, depending on the weapon type that you're using, you want to be aiming for certain body parts of the monster, not the back. If you're using a blunt type weapon, or let's say the sword and shield, because the shield actually deals blunt damage, you want to mount the monster and you want to knock it on its head. That way you can break the body part on that monster when it comes to Safi'jiiva's head. If you're using a severing type weapon like let's say the switch axe, the charge blade, or the longsword, you want to aim for the tail instead, so you can try and sever the tail whilst you mount the monster. Always try to aim for the body part where your weapon type is most effective, and just completely ignore the back of Safi'jiiva if you do manage to mount it. Now alongside mounting the monster, you actually want to flash Safi'jiiva as it builds up the Sapphire of the Emperor super move during the second phase and even the third phase. You can actually knock it down of that build up, and once you knock it down, you have an opportunity to quickly deal damage to the monster before it goes back and tries to build up Sapphire of the Emperor once again. You do have that small opening to take advantage of that, but otherwise do flash the monster to cancel it out, and maybe even give your teammates some time in order to hide behind the crags when it comes to the Sapphire of the Emperor super move. Speaking of teammates, if you want to save your teammates from dying, especially when it comes to the pin attack of Safi'jiiva, always make sure to bring Dust of Life as well as Life Powder in order to save their life. Now, Life Powder and Dust of Life are more than enough to save your teammate to prevent them from dying against Safi'jiiva's pin attacks. Just always make sure to bring them because it's a nice quality of life when it comes to saving your teammate during the Safi'jiiva Siege. Now, my final supplementary information that I can provide for you when it comes to the Safi'jiiva Siege is changing your loadout to a different weapon type in the middle of the siege if you don't want to break certain body parts like the two front legs. Let's say for example you're using the switch axe in order to break the Safi'jiiva's tail. You've already severed the tail during the second phase, and now you want to break the back legs during the third phase. You don't stick with the switch axe, instead you go back into the camp, you change into a hammer or a hunting horn, and then you go back into the hunt and break the two back legs with the most effective weapon that you can use, which is a blunt type weapon. Being able to change loadout is a blessing when it comes to this game, especially when it comes to the Safi'jiiva Siege. So take advantage of the fact that you can swap into a different loadout when it comes to the siege and use the right weapon type for the right body part that you want to break if you don't want to break something along the lines of the two front legs because they take forever to break. Always take advantage of the loadout when it comes to the camp and swap the different weapon types to make yourself more effective and fluid when it comes to the Safi'jiiva Siege. Now that's pretty much all of the information that I can cram into this video that should be able to help you to break Safi'jiiva's body parts as effectively as possible. At the end of the day though, your mileage may vary depending on the teams that you are running with. Now if you're running with a well-coordinated team, you're more than likely going to break every single body part, if not by the first run, by maybe the second run. However, if you're running with randoms, this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky because not everyone is well coordinated, meaning that at some point of the run, you may break every single body part. At other points of the run, you might not even break 4 body parts. So sometimes, it's best to really adjust yourself to the situation when it comes to the Safi'jiiva Siege, depending on the team that you are running with. Just bear that in mind, your mileage may vary at the end of the day, depending on the teammates that you are running with. And that is pretty much it for this video. Once again, taking a look at a Safi'jiiva Siege guide when it comes to the Iceborne expansion. Hopefully, this is a lot more comprehensive and a lot more informative in comparison to the ones that I've done in the past. And hopefully, it's a lot less annoying as well because I don't repeat the word itself too many times, because that was annoying for me as well. Itself. But for the most part, I really am hoping that this is something that has helped you out when it comes to the Safi'jiiva Siege. Let me know in the comments below what kind of information you would like to know when it comes to the Safi'jiiva in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities when it comes to this game. Now that is pretty much it for me for this video. If you enjoyed these videos, please consider leaving a like on the video itself and subscribing to the channel, as well as hitting that bell icon so you can go ahead and catch up on any other content that I might be doing in future. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Onward and upward.